Emily Carter stood quietly at the edge of the marble-floored living room, her fingers twisting nervously together as voices echoed around her like knives. The chandelier above sparkled with gold light, but to Emily, the room felt cold and heavy. "Honestly, Jason, I don't understand why you married her," sneered Linda Harper, Emily's mother-in-law, swirling her wine glass lazily. "Look at her clothes. She looks like she shops at discount stores." Laughter followed. Emily lowered her eyes. Jason Harper, her husband, didn't defend her. He leaned back against the couch, scrolling on his phone as if she wasn't standing right there. "Mom, you're overreacting," he said casually. "She's useful around the house. That's all." Emily's heart clenched. Useful. Not loved. Not respected. Just useful. They lived in a luxury mansion in Beverly Hills, surrounded by servants, sports cars, and designer furniture. But Emily felt like a stranger in a palace that wasn't hers. She came from a small town in Oregon called Silverbrook. Raised by her father, Henry Carter, a quiet man who ran what everyone believed was a tiny repair shop fixing old machines. Emily thought they were poor. But she never felt poor growing up. Her father always made sure she ate well, went to good schools, and never lacked anything important. "Money isn't everything, sweetheart," he'd always say gently. "Character is wealth." So when Jason, the handsome corporate executive from a rich family, pursued her aggressively in college, Emily believed she had found love. She never imagined she had walked into a cage. The insults started slowly. At first it was jokes. Then comparisons. Then open humiliation. "You don't belong here," Linda often said. "You're lucky my son picked you. Girls like you should stay in small towns." And Jason, he cheated. Openly. His mistress, Chloe Bennett, began appearing at company events as if she was already the wife. Emily once found Chloe wearing her robe. Jason only laughed. "Don't be dramatic. You should be grateful I still come home." That night, Emily cried until her pillow was soaked. She wanted to call her father. But she didn't want to worry him. Henry Carter was already getting older. His hands shook slightly when he held tools now. She thought he was struggling to keep the little repair shop open. So she stayed silent. She endured. One afternoon, Emily finally gathered courage. "Jason," she said softly in their bedroom, "why do you treat me like this? I love you." Jason looked annoyed. "Love?" he scoffed. "Emily, you were a poor nobody. I married you because you were simple and obedient. Don't start acting like you deserve more." Her chest hurt like it was breaking open. "Do you even care about me?" He stood up sharply. "Listen carefully. My family owns part of Harper Global Industries. You're living on our money. If you push me, I'll throw you out with nothing." Emily froze. Thrown out. With nowhere to go. She whispered, "I'm your wife." Jason smirked. "You're replaceable." That night, Emily finally called her father. "Daddy," she sobbed. Henry Carter listened silently as she poured out years of pain. When she finished, there was a long pause. Then his calm voice changed. Not angry. Not loud. Just different. "Emily," he said slowly, "have they ever asked about me?" "No," she sniffed. "They think you're poor." Another long pause. "My daughter," Henry said softly, "some truths have been hidden long enough." Her heart skipped. "Daddy, what do you mean?" He sighed. "I didn't want wealth to change you. I wanted you to live humbly. But now they are hurting you." "Dad, I don't care about money." "I know," he said gently. "That's why you deserve to know now." Then came the words that would change everything. "Emily, the repair shop was never real." Her breath caught. "I own Carter Dynamics Holdings." She frowned. "Dad, what is that?" One small laugh escaped him. Emily, it's a global investment empire. Her mind spun. We own banks, tech companies, oil firms, airlines, real estate across America and Europe. Silence swallowed her. Daddy, are you saying? Yes, he said calmly. Your father is a trillionaire. Emily's phone nearly slipped from her hand. No, that's impossible. I built it quietly for 30 years. I wanted a simple life with you. Tears streamed down her face. Jason's company, Henry continued. I've been watching them mistreat you. Her heart pounded. And tomorrow, he said firmly, I will buy Harper Global Industries. She gasped. Entirely. They will answer to me. Emily whispered in shock. You mean, Jason will be your employee? Henry's voice hardened for the first time. No, sweetheart. He will be nothing. And in that moment, the poor girl they mocked was about to become the most powerful woman in the room. Morning arrived in Beverly Hills with sharp sunlight. Jason Harper adjusted his cufflinks, confident as ever. Today mattered. Harper Global Industries was finalizing a major expansion deal, and Jason believed it would push him toward a vice president title. Downstairs, Emily made coffee with trembling hands. She hadn't slept. Her father's words echoed, trillionaire. By the company. Entirely. It sounded impossible, but Henry Carter's calm certainty had made it real. Jason walked in, glanced at her, and scoffed. You look awful. Try not to embarrass me tonight. We have a gala. Emily set the mug down carefully. Jason, there's something you should know. It's about my father. He didn't slow. Not now. It's important. Jason laughed. Your mechanic, Dad? What about him? Did he finally fix a lawnmower big enough to impress you? Emily swallowed. He's coming to Los Angeles. Good, Jason said. Maybe my mother can show him the servant quarters. He left, arrogance trailing behind him. Harper Global's headquarters rose above downtown Los Angeles. A special board meeting had been called with little notice, and that always meant something big. A merger, a buyout, a scandal. Jason strode down the executive hallway. Chloe Bennett waited near the conference room doors in a fitted white dress, her smile sharp. There you are, Chloe purred, looping her arm through his. I heard the board is bringing in a new investor. Jason smirked. Doesn't matter. I'm the one they rely on. And your wife, Emily, she's at home pretending she's a saint. She won't dare show her face here. Chloe leaned in. Good. I don't like sharing. Jason kissed her cheek, public and careless, as assistants stared at the floor. Inside the boardroom, Linda Harper sat among the directors, elegant and cold. She spotted Jason and Chloe and gave a satisfied nod. The chairman, Gerald Whitman, cleared his throat. Let's begin. We have an announcement regarding the company's ownership. A murmur rippled around the table. Gerald continued, as of 8 a.m. this morning, Harper Global Industries has been acquired. Silence fell. Linda's smile tightened. Acquired? By whom? Gerald opened a folder. By Carter Dynamics Holdings. Jason blinked. The name meant nothing to him. Never heard of it, he said. Is this some hedge fund stunt? The door opened. Every head turned. A tall, silver-haired man stepped into the room, calm and composed, followed by attorneys and advisors. His suit looked simple until you noticed the flawless fit, the quiet authority, the way people instinctively held their breath. Gerald stood quickly. Mr. Carter. Linda's face drained. Carter. Jason's stomach flipped. He stared, then laughed, too loud. Wait. That's Emily's father. The man looked directly at Jason, not with anger, but with controlled disappointment. Yes, Henry Carter said. I'm Emily's father. Chloe's mouth fell open. No. That can't be. Henry placed documents on the table. It is. Carter Dynamics now owns 100% of Harper Global. The acquisition was completed overnight. Jason shot to his feet. This is insane. You're a mechanic. You fix machines in some Oregon town. Henry's gaze didn't waver. I fix what's broken, Mr. Harper. Sometimes that includes companies. A director whispered, Carter Dynamics. That's the private group that's been buying infrastructure and tech for years. Another murmured, they're rumored to be worth trillions. Linda leaned forward, voice shaking. Mr. Carter, surely we can discuss this privately. Families can misunderstand each other. Henry's eyes narrowed. Yes, they can. Gerald swallowed. Mr. Carter is now the controlling owner. Effective immediately, he will appoint new executive leadership. Jason's voice cracked. You can't do that. I'm director of operations. Henry's tone sharpened. You were. Now you're under review. Chloe stepped away from Jason as if his confidence had turned to smoke. Henry opened another folder. I've reviewed internal reports, HR complaints, and financial decisions. There are also personal matters that reflect on corporate integrity. Jason's heart slammed. Personal matters. Henry turned slightly. Bring her in. The door opened again. Emily stepped into the boardroom. She wore a simple navy dress, no diamonds, no dramatic entrance, just steady eyes and a straight spine. The fear that had lived in her for years was gone. Jason's face twisted. Emily, what are you doing here? Emily looked at him quietly. I came with my father. Linda forced a smile that looked painful. Emily, dear, why didn't you tell us your father was, well, successful? Emily's voice stayed calm. Because you never cared to ask. You only cared to insult. Chloe's cheeks burned. This is ridiculous, she snapped. Jason, tell them. Jason didn't move. He couldn't. His world was collapsing. Henry faced the board. Today is not about revenge. It's about accountability. Harper Global will be rebuilt with integrity. Those who abused power, at work or at home, will not be protected. Emily met Jason's eyes, and for the first time he saw her not as someone to control, but as someone he had underestimated. And underestimation, Emily realized, was the most expensive mistake of all. After the meeting adjourned, the directors filed out in stunned silence. In the hallway, Jason caught up, grabbing Emily's wrist. Please listen, he whispered, panic breaking through his pride. This isn't what it looks like. Chloe means nothing. You know me. Emily gently pulled her hand free. I do know you, she said. That's why I'm done. Linda rushed forward, voice syrupy. Sweetheart, we were harsh. We didn't realize. We can start over. Henry stepped between them, polite but immovable. My daughter doesn't need to earn basic respect, he said. She should never have had to. Jason's eyes darted to Henry. Mr. Carter, I can be valuable. Give me a chance. I'll work. I'll prove. Henry's expression stayed calm. You already proved who you are when you thought Emily had nothing. Emily exhaled, feeling years of shame loosen from her chest. Dad, she murmured, I want my own life. Henry nodded once. Then you'll have it. Starting today. No more fear, no begging. The news spread through Harper Global Industries faster than wildfire. By lunchtime, every employee knew the company had been bought overnight by a mysterious empire, and that the new owner was the quiet father of the woman everyone had mocked. Whispers filled hallways. That's Emily Harper's dad. The poor girl. The one they treated like trash. Phones buzzed. Business networks reported the acquisition as one of the largest private takeovers in U.S. history. And in the center of it all stood Emily Carter, no longer invisible. Jason sat in his office, staring at the city skyline he once believed belonged to him. Now it felt like it was slipping away. His phone rang non-stop. Executives he once ignored were suddenly busy. Chloe hadn't answered his last 10 calls. His mother stormed in, panic all over her elegant face. You need to fix this. Linda snapped. Your wife's father owns everything now. Jason rubbed his temples. I know, Mom. You should apologize. Beg if you have to. Jason laughed bitterly. You think pride matters now? Linda grabbed his sleeve. This family cannot fall, Jason. We worked too hard. He pulled away. No, you enjoyed looking down on her too. Silence hit between them. Because it was true. Across the building, Emily stood beside her father in a glass conference room overlooking Los Angeles. Her hands were still shaking slightly. Henry noticed and gently placed his hand over hers. "You're safe now, sweetheart," she whispered. "I keep thinking I'll wake up." He smiled softly. "You won't." Emily swallowed. "Dad, I never wanted revenge." "I know," he said. "This isn't revenge. This is protection." She stared out at the massive city. "They made me feel small for so long." Henry's eyes darkened slightly. "No one is allowed to do that to my daughter." A knock came at the door. A young executive stepped in nervously. "Mr. Carter, the board is ready for your leadership restructuring." Henry nodded calmly. "Let's begin." Emily hesitated. "Should I come?" He turned to her. "Only if you want to witness your new life starting." She straightened her shoulders. "I do." The boardroom filled again. But this time the energy was different. No arrogance. No entitlement. Just fear and respect. Henry took the head seat. "As of today," he said evenly, "Harper Global will operate under Carter Dynamics values. Transparency. Merit. Human dignity." Eyes shifted uncomfortably. Executives who abused authority will be dismissed. Those who earned their positions will remain. One director cleared his throat. "And Mr. Harper?" Henry looked directly at Jason. "Jason Harper is suspended pending investigation into corporate misconduct and ethical violations." Jason's face went pale. "That's ridiculous." Henry slid a folder across the table. "Affairs conducted during business hours. Contracts steered to personal contacts. Financial negligence." The room went silent. Jason stared at the pages. "You went through my records." "I went through everything," Henry said calmly. Emily watched the powerful man she once loved shrink in real time. Linda stood abruptly. "This is a witch hunt." Henry's voice remained steady. "No, Mrs. Harper. This is accountability." Security quietly stepped forward. Jason's breath shook. "You're throwing me out." Henry nodded once. "Today." The guards gently but firmly escorted Jason toward the door. His eyes locked on Emily. "Emily, please," he whispered. "I loved you." Her heart ached, but not with weakness. With clarity. "No, Jason," she said softly. "You loved controlling me." The doors closed behind him. Outside, Chloe finally answered his call. "Chloe," he said desperately, "thank God, listen, things are crazy right now." She laughed lightly. "Jason, I heard your company belongs to your wife's billionaire daddy now." "So," he snapped, "we can get through this together." There was a pause. Then her voice cooled. "I don't date unemployed men." The line went dead. Jason stared at his phone. For the first time in his life, he was alone. That evening, Emily returned to the mansion that never felt like home. Suitcases already lined the hallway. The servants watched respectfully, some even smiling softly at her. Linda stood stiffly by the staircase. "You're really leaving?" "Yes," Emily replied calmly. "You'll throw away this life?" Emily looked around at the cold luxury. "This was never my life." Linda scoffed weakly. "You think money changes everything?" Emily met her eyes. "No. Respect does. And you never gave me any." Linda had no reply. Jason rushed in then, disheveled, eyes wild. "Emily," he cried, "don't do this. We can start fresh." She breathed deeply. "Jason, when I cried, you laughed. When I begged, you threatened me. When I was powerless, you used me." He shook his head frantically. "I was stressed. I didn't mean it." "You meant every moment you thought I had nothing," she said gently. Silence filled the room. Emily lifted her suitcase. "I deserve peace." Jason fell to his knees. Please. She paused. For a second, her heart remembered the man she once loved. Then she remembered the woman she had become. Goodbye, Jason. And she walked out. Outside, Henry waited by a sleek black car. He opened the door for her like she was royalty, not because of money, but because of love. Emily sat beside him, tears finally falling. I feel free, she whispered. Henry smiled warmly. That's what wealth is truly for, to protect the people you love. As the car pulled away from the mansion, Emily watched her old life disappear behind her. Not with bitterness, but with strength. She wasn't the poor girl anymore. She wasn't the silent wife. She was the daughter of a trillionaire, and more importantly, a woman who knew her worth. Emily woke up the next morning in a luxury hotel overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Soft sunlight spilled through the glass windows, and for a moment she forgot everything. Then she remembered. Her father. The company. Jason's fall. And her freedom. She sat up slowly, heart racing, not with fear anymore, but with something new. Possibility. A gentle knock came at the door. Sweetheart, Henry called. Breakfast is ready. She smiled faintly and joined him on the balcony where a table was set with fresh fruit, warm pastries, and coffee. Dad, this still feels unreal. Henry chuckled. It took me years to believe my own success. Emily wrapped her hands around the cup. What happens now? He studied her carefully. That depends on you. She looked up. You've lived under control long enough, he said. Now you can choose your life. Emily hesitated. I don't want to hide anymore. I don't want to be weak. Henry smiled proudly. Good. Then let's build something together. Back at Harper Global, shockwaves continued. Employees whispered in elevators. Executives checked their emails every 5 minutes. And Jason Harper's name was already being erased from company materials. Henry had called a full staff meeting in the main auditorium. Over 1,000 employees filled the room. Emily stood beside him on stage. Henry spoke calmly but firmly. 4 years, Harper Global lost its way. Power replaced integrity. Fear replaced respect. Silence held the crowd. That ends today. Applause slowly grew, then exploded. Emily's eyes widened. He continued, My daughter Emily will join leadership as Director of Corporate Ethics and Community Development. Gasps filled the room. Emily froze. Henry leaned closer. You're ready. She stepped forward, voice shaking but strong. I was once treated as invisible here. Some of you saw it. Some of you were afraid to speak. Eyes dropped. But I don't want revenge. I want change. The room listened. I want this company to be a place where no one is humiliated for who they are or where they come from. Applause roared. For the first time in her life, Emily felt truly seen. Meanwhile, Jason's world collapsed faster than he could grasp. His company credit cards were frozen. His corporate apartment lease was cancelled. And news articles labeled him former executive removed after takeover scandal. He sat alone in a bar downtown, suit wrinkled, staring at the TV screen. Sources say the acquisition by Carter Dynamics exposed years of internal abuse and corruption. Jason slammed his glass down. This is all Emily's fault, he muttered. But deep down, he knew it wasn't. It was his own cruelty. At the hotel, Emily began meeting executives, managers, and department heads. Some were nervous. Others relieved. One young woman named Sarah spoke with trembling hands. Mrs. Carter, Emily, she corrected quickly. Thank you for standing up. Mr. Harper used to scream at us daily. Emily's heart tightened. No one will ever be treated like that again, she promised. Word spread quickly. Emily wasn't just the owner's daughter. She was a protector. Later that afternoon, Henry walked with Emily along the beach. Waves rolled softly at their feet. You handled today beautifully, he said. I was terrified, she admitted. That's courage, he replied. Not absence of fear, moving despite it. She smiled. Dad, why didn't you tell me sooner? He sighed. Because I wanted you loved for who you are, not your money. She nodded slowly. I understand now. That evening, a knock came at their hotel suite. Security announced quietly, Mr. Jason Harper is downstairs requesting to see Miss Carter. Emily's stomach clenched. Henry's jaw tightened. You don't have to. She inhaled deeply. I do. Jason stood in the lobby, eyes red, suit rumpled. When he saw her, relief flooded his face. Emily, thank God. She stood tall. What do you want, Jason? I messed up, he whispered. I lost everything. My job. My reputation. My mother is furious. Chloe left me. Emily remained calm. I'm sorry, he continued desperately. I didn't know your father was. She raised her hand gently. Stop. That's the problem. He frowned. You're only sorry because you lost power, she said softly. Not because you hurt me. His eyes filled. I loved you. No, she said firmly. You loved being above me. Silence hung between them. Emily, please give me another chance. She looked at the man who once controlled her life, and felt nothing but clarity. Jason, I forgive you. Hope sparked in his eyes. But I will never return to you. That hope died. Goodbye, she said calmly, and walked away without looking back. Upstairs, Henry watched proudly. You did well, he said. Emily exhaled shakily. I finally feel strong. He smiled. You always were. She gazed out at the glowing city lights. Her life was no longer about surviving humiliation. It was about rising, about changing lives, about becoming everything they said she couldn't be. The first week under Carter Dynamics felt like a storm of transformation. Policies that had remained untouched for years were rewritten overnight. Executives who once barked orders now spoke carefully. Departments that had lived in fear suddenly felt hope breathing through their halls. Emily arrived early every morning, not in designer gowns, but in simple professional outfits that made employees feel at ease. She walked the floors instead of hiding in offices. She listened. And what she heard shocked her. A young accountant confessed how Jason once threatened to fire her if she didn't adjust numbers to benefit one of his private deals. A marketing assistant whispered about executives taking credit for her ideas. A janitor spoke of being humiliated by Linda Harper when he accidentally bumped into her in the hallway. Emily documented everything. This ends now, she said firmly. And it did. Within days, corrupt managers were dismissed. Some resigned quietly. Others were escorted out by security. For the first time in years, the building felt lighter. Henry watched his daughter lead with quiet pride. You're not just running a company, he said one afternoon. You're healing it. Emily smiled. I don't want anyone to feel as powerless as I did. You've turned pain into purpose, he replied. News outlets praised the takeover as a corporate miracle. Stock analysts predicted massive growth. But Emily cared more about the faces smiling in the hallways. For the first time, employees felt safe. Jason, however, felt the full weight of reality. His bank accounts were nearly empty. Friends avoided his calls. Even restaurants he once frequented refused service when they recognized him from the news. He rented a tiny studio apartment far from Beverly Hills. Bare walls, cracked ceiling, cheap mattress on the floor. One night, he stared at his phone, scrolling through old photos of him and Emily. She was always smiling. He wasn't. He never noticed. Regret burned deep in his chest. Meanwhile, Emily launched new company initiatives. Mental health support. Fair promotion systems. Anonymous reporting. Scholarships for underprivileged students. The company began gaining respect not just for profits, but for humanity. Employees worked harder because they felt valued. Productivity soared. One afternoon, Emily received an email. Subject: Thank you for saving me. A former intern wrote about how she almost quit corporate life after being harassed, but Emily's reforms gave her hope. Emily wiped tears from her eyes. This was real success. Henry joined her in the office. Proud of you, he said simply. Dad, I never imagined I'd be here. You earned it, he replied. Not with money, with character. At a corporate event weeks later, Emily stood on stage addressing hundreds of business leaders. Power should never silence people, she said. It should protect them. The room rose in standing ovation. Cameras flashed. The once invisible girl was now a respected leader. Across the city, Jason watched the event on a bar television. There she was. Confident. Radiant. Strong. The woman he broke, and who rose without him. He swallowed painfully. I lost her, he whispered. The bartender glanced over. Looks like she's doing just fine without you. Jason nodded slowly. Yes, she is. That night, Emily stood on her balcony overlooking Los Angeles. Dad, she said softly, I don't hate him anymore. Henry smiled gently. That's called healing. She breathed deeply, feeling peace wash over her. The chapter of pain was closing, and a new chapter of strength had begun. The more Emily transformed Harper Global, the more hidden truths surfaced. Once employees realized their voices mattered, stories poured in like a broken dam. Reports of forged contracts, hidden accounts, bribes, threats. What began as emotional abuse investigations slowly turned into full financial audits. Henry hired the best corporate investigators in the country. Within weeks, the truth was undeniable. Jason Harper hadn't just been cruel. He had been corrupt. One crisp morning, Emily sat across from Henry in a glass meeting room while lawyers spread documents across the table. Your ex-husband rerouted millions through shell companies, one investigator explained. We have proof. Emily's hands trembled. So all those business trips were mostly meetings with people paying him off. Henry sighed heavily. This goes beyond termination, the lawyer continued. Federal charges are likely. Emily closed her eyes slowly. She didn't feel joy. She felt sadness. Not for Jason, but for what he chose to become. News broke within days. Former Harper executive under federal investigation for fraud. Jason's name was everywhere. Agents arrived at his apartment early one morning. Jason Harper, one said firmly, you're under arrest. Handcuffs clicked shut. Neighbors peeked through blinds. Cameras flashed. The man who once ruled boardrooms was led into a police car. Emily saw the news while drinking coffee. Her breath caught. Henry watched her carefully. Are you okay? She nodded slowly. I don't feel revenge. I feel closure. That means you've grown beyond the pain. Jason sat alone in an interrogation room, hands shaking. The confidence that once defined him was gone. Why? An agent asked. You had everything. Jason stared at the metal table. I thought power meant control, he whispered. And now I have nothing. Meanwhile, Harper Global thrived. Profits rose. Employee satisfaction skyrocketed. Other corporations began copying Emily's ethics model. Business magazines called it the Carter Corporate Revolution. Emily was invited to speak across the country. New York, Chicago, San Francisco. Everywhere she went, young professionals thanked her. You gave us courage, they said. She smiled humbly. We gave each other courage. One evening, after a conference in New York, Emily and Henry walked along Central Park. Dad, she said softly, I used to think strength was surviving abuse. He shook his head. Strength is leaving it, and building something better. She smiled warmly. Back in Los Angeles, Jason's mother Linda visited him in jail. Tears streaked her makeup. How did this happen? She cried. Jason laughed weakly. Because I thought I was untouchable. She grabbed his hands through the bars. We can fix this. No, he whispered. Some things don't get fixed. For the first time, he accepted reality. Emily wrote a letter that night. Not to Jason. To herself. To the girl who cried alone in luxury rooms. To the woman who learned her worth. She folded it and placed it in a drawer, her final goodbye to the past. Months passed. Jason's trial began. Evidence piled high. Witnesses testified. There was no escape. The verdict was guilty on multiple counts. Sentencing loomed. Emily didn't attend the courtroom. She was too busy building schools through company funding, supporting shelters, changing lives. Her world was no longer defined by him. Henry smiled as he watched her speak at a charity gala. "My daughter became something greater than wealth," he said proudly. "She became purpose." Emily glanced at him with tears. "Thank you for saving me." He shook his head gently. "You saved yourself." The courtroom was packed. Journalists filled every bench. Cameras flashed as Jason Harper was escorted in wearing an orange prison uniform. His once confident posture had collapsed into slumped shoulders. The man who used to walk through marble hallways like a king now shuffled in chains. Outside, headlines scrolled non-stop. Former executive faces decades in prison corporate fraud empire exposed. Inside the courtroom, the judge entered and silence fell. Jason avoided looking at the crowd. He knew Emily wasn't there. And somehow, that hurt more than the cuffs. The prosecutor stood. Jason Harper abused power, manipulated finances, destroyed trust, and believed wealth made him immune to consequence. Evidence flashed on screens. Fake accounts, forged signatures, bribery transfers. Each one crushed Jason deeper. Witnesses came forward, former co-workers, accountants, assistants. Some cried. Some trembled. All told the truth. The damage was undeniable. Jason's defense barely spoke. There was nothing left to deny. When asked if he wished to address the court, Jason slowly stood. His voice shook. "I thought money meant I could control people," he said quietly. "I was wrong." He swallowed. "I hurt my wife. I betrayed my company. I ruined my own life." Tears ran down his cheeks. "I accept whatever sentence I receive." The courtroom remained silent. The judge's voice echoed. "Jason Harper, you are hereby sentenced to 25 years in federal prison for fraud, corruption, and abuse of authority." The gavel struck. A final sound. A final consequence. Jason closed his eyes. It was over. Across the country, Emily was standing in front of a packed auditorium in Chicago, delivering a keynote on ethical leadership. Her phone vibrated quietly in her purse. She didn't check it. She didn't need to. She already knew. Her past no longer controlled her present. After the speech, Henry gently told her, "It's done." Emily exhaled slowly. No tears. No anger. Just peace. "Thank you for protecting me," she said softly. Henry smiled. "You protected yourself by choosing growth." Later that night, Emily walked alone by Lake Michigan. City lights reflected on the water. She whispered, "Goodbye, Jason." Not in bitterness. In release. The chapter was closed. Back in prison, Jason stared at the concrete wall of his cell. 25 years. The silence roared. He thought of Emily. Her kindness. Her patience. Her strength. He had crushed something beautiful. And now he lived with that forever. Meanwhile, Emily's life soared forward. Harper Global became one of the most respected corporations in the country. Carter Dynamics expanded philanthropic projects nationwide. Emily's leadership style became a case study in business schools. She wasn't just a billionaire's daughter. She was a role model. One evening at a charity fundraiser in New York, Emily met someone new. Michael Reynolds. A calm, intelligent architect who designed community housing projects. They spoke for hours. Not about money. Not about power. But about dreams. Laughter came easily. Something warm stirred in Emily's chest. For the first time in years, she felt safe. Henry watched from across the room, smiling knowingly. "Looks like life is giving you something beautiful again," he teased later. Emily blushed. "I'm not rushing." "Good," he said. "But don't close your heart." She nodded softly. "I'm finally ready to live." Life had a rhythm now, one Emily never thought she'd experience. Peace. Not the kind that comes from luxury, but the kind that comes from safety, respect, and freedom. Her days were filled with meetings, charity projects, and leadership initiatives. Her nights were calm. No more waiting for angry footsteps. No more fear of being insulted. And slowly, something unexpected grew. Michael Reynolds. They began meeting casually, coffee in quiet cafes, walks through parks, dinners that lasted far longer than planned. Michael never asked about her wealth. He never bragged about connections. He treated her like a human being. And that healed her more than he knew. One evening, they sat on a rooftop overlooking New York's skyline. "I admire what you're doing," Michael said gently. "Not many people with power choose kindness." Emily smiled softly. "I know what it feels like to have none." He nodded. "That's what makes you strong." She studied him carefully. "You don't look at me like everyone else." He laughed lightly. "I see, Emily, not a fortune." Her chest warmed. For the first time since her marriage, she felt real love beginning. Meanwhile, Emily's influence spread across America. Corporations invited her to redesign workplace culture. Universities asked her to mentor young leaders. Nonprofits partnered with her to fund shelters, schools, and healthcare programs. Carter community centers opened in struggling neighborhoods. Single mothers found support. Students received scholarships. Families found hope. Emily's pain was now fueling thousands of second chances. One afternoon, Emily visited a women's shelter in Detroit. A young woman hugged her tightly. "Because of your programs, I escaped my abusive home," she whispered through tears. Emily hugged back. "This is why I do this." Henry watched his daughter become a force of good. "You turned suffering into a legacy," he said proudly. Emily smiled. "You gave me the chance." "No," he corrected gently. "You gave yourself the courage." Michael joined Emily at charity events now. He helped design affordable housing projects funded by Carter Dynamics. They worked side by side, laughing, dreaming, building futures. Love grew naturally, without fear, without control, without pain. One night, Michael took Emily to the beach in Malibu. Candles lined the sand. Waves rolled softly. "This isn't about wealth," he said seriously. "It's about us." Her heart raced. "I care about you deeply," he continued. "Not because of your past, because of who you are now." Tears shimmered in Emily's eyes. "I care about you too," she whispered. They embraced as the ocean breeze wrapped around them. Healing felt complete. Across the country, Jason sat in prison watching a small TV in the common room. A news segment featured Emily. Business leader Emily Carter continues to transform corporate America through ethical reforms and humanitarian projects. Inmates glanced at Jason. "Isn't that your ex-wife?" one asked. Jason nodded slowly. "She deserves everything she has," he said quietly. No bitterness remained. Only regret. Months turned into a year. Emily and Michael grew closer. Trust deepened. They moved slowly, building something strong, not rushed. Emily finally believed she could love without fear. At a charity gala in Los Angeles, Michael took Emily's hand. "Whatever life brings," he said softly, "I'm with you." She smiled warmly. "And I'm finally not afraid." Henry watched from across the room, heart full. His little girl was no longer broken. She was thriving. Emily's life no longer felt like a storm she was trying to survive. It felt like a sunrise she was walking into every day. Carter Dynamics and the newly reformed Harper Global became symbols of ethical business across the nation. Major corporations followed Emily's leadership model, rewriting policies on employee rights, transparency, and fair promotions. Business schools studied her strategies. Media outlets called it the Carter Effect. But to Emily, it wasn't about fame. It was about people finally being treated with dignity. One morning in Los Angeles, Emily stood in front of a massive new building with bright glass windows and a sign that read, Carter Hope Center, Los Angeles. Inside were classrooms, counseling rooms, healthcare clinics, and job training facilities. Michael stood beside her, pride in his eyes. "You dreamed this," he said. "We built it," she corrected softly. Henry smiled nearby, tears shining. Hundreds of families filled the courtyard for the grand opening. Emily spoke gently into the microphone. This center exists because pain should never be the end of someone's story." Thunderous applause followed. Similar centers opened in Chicago, Atlanta, Dallas, and Seattle. Each one changed lives. Each one saved futures. Emily spent weeks traveling, listening to stories, hugging children, encouraging single parents, and mentoring young women. Her heart felt full. One afternoon, after visiting a center in Seattle, Michael seemed nervous. They walked by the waterfront, seagulls crying overhead. "Emily," he said quietly, stopping. She turned, smiling. "You look serious." He took a breath. "I've watched you turn broken places into hope," he said. "And you turned my life brighter just by being in it." Her heart fluttered. "Michael!" He reached into his pocket and knelt. Gasps came from nearby passers-by. "Emily Carter," he said softly, "will you marry me?" Tears flooded her eyes. Her past flashed briefly, pain, tears, fear. Then vanished. Because this moment was pure joy. "Yes," she whispered, voice shaking. "Yes." Cheers erupted around them. Michael slipped the ring on her finger. They hugged tightly as sunlight glowed across the water. Henry received the news by phone and laughed joyfully. "My little girl is getting married," he said proudly. "I'm so happy," Emily cried. "You deserve every happiness," he replied. Meanwhile, in prison, Jason sat quietly reading a newspaper when he saw the headline. Business leader Emily Carter engaged to architect philanthropist. His breath caught. He studied the smiling photo of Emily and Michael. She looked radiant, whole, happy. Jason closed his eyes. "I hope you're always loved," he whispered. For the first time, he truly let go. Wedding planning began quickly but simply. Emily didn't want extravagance. She wanted meaning. They chose a beautiful outdoor ceremony by the ocean. Families, friends, employees, community members, people whose lives had been touched by Emily's journey. One evening, Emily sat beside Henry watching the sunset. "Dad," she said softly, "I used to think my life was ruined." He smiled gently. "And now I know it was just beginning." He squeezed her hand. Pain was the chapter, not the book. She leaned against his shoulder. "Thank you for everything. You became everything on your own," he said proudly. As wedding invitations went out, Emily looked at the ocean waves rolling endlessly. Her life had transformed from humiliation to purpose, from heartbreak to love, from silence to strength. And the best chapter was still coming. The ocean shimmered beneath the golden afternoon sun. Soft waves rolled gently against the shore as white chairs lined the sand, decorated with simple flowers and flowing fabric that danced in the breeze. It wasn't extravagant. It was peaceful. Perfect. Emily stood inside a small seaside cottage, her heart pounding as bridesmaids adjusted her simple, elegant gown. She looked in the mirror. Not at the dress. At the woman. The scared girl who once cried alone in a mansion was gone. In her place stood a strong, confident woman who had survived pain, found purpose, and chosen love again. Tears filled her eyes, not from sadness, but from gratitude. Henry knocked gently and entered. "Are you ready, sweetheart?" She turned and smiled through tears. "I've never been more ready." He offered his arm. "Let's walk you into your forever." Guests stood as music floated softly across the beach. Michael waited near the altar, eyes shining when he saw Emily. Henry slowly walked her down the aisle. Every step felt like freedom. Every breath felt like peace. When they reached the front, Henry kissed her forehead. "You were always strong," he whispered. "I'm proud of you." Emily squeezed his hand. "Thank you for saving me." He smiled gently. "You saved yourself." The officiant spoke of resilience, forgiveness, and new beginnings. Michael took Emily's hands. "Emily, I promise to protect your heart, respect your voice, and walk beside you in every season of life." Tears rolled down her cheeks. She spoke softly but firmly. "Michael, you taught me love doesn't hurt, control, or silence. You showed me peace. I promise to build a life of kindness with you." They exchanged rings. "You may kiss the bride." Cheers erupted. They kissed as the ocean breeze wrapped around them like blessing. The reception was full of laughter. Children ran barefoot in the sand. Employees hugged Emily. Families thanked her. People cried happy tears. It wasn't a wedding of wealth. It was a wedding of love. Later, Emily stood with Michael watching the sunset. "I never thought happiness would feel this calm," she whispered. "That's real love," he said softly. She smiled. Across the country, Jason sat quietly in his prison cell holding a folded newspaper clipping of Emily's wedding photo. He stared at it a long time, then gently placed it inside a book. "Be happy," he whispered, "and let the past go." Emily and Michael traveled the world supporting charity projects. Their centers expanded globally. Thousands of lives were changed. Emily never forgot where she came from. She used every blessing to lift others. One evening years later, Emily sat with Henry on a porch overlooking a peaceful lake. "Dad," she said softly, "our life turned out beautiful." Henry smiled warmly. "Because you chose courage." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I used to think wealth was money." "And now?" he asked. She smiled. "Now I know wealth is love, peace, and helping others rise." If this journey touched your heart, inspired you, or kept you hooked till the end, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Every week, we bring you emotional stories of love, betrayal, redemption, and unexpected miracles that will move your soul and change how you see life. New stories uploaded regularly, real-life inspired drama and powerful lessons, stories that stay with you long after watching. Subscribe now and become part of our storytelling family, because every story deserves to be heard. Thank you for watching.